Hey guys, this is the Chuck Bryant from the Chuck Bryant Show. I want to give a personal shout out to Brian Crowe and Brian that I apologize for the mistaking of pronouncing the gospel radio favorites. And if you're watching this video, we had an interview just this week with Brian Crowe from the gospel radio favorites. I'd like to apologize for making a mistake in pronouncing your show's program. I know you said it was okay, but I want to give you an apology when it's going to be put on this video. So if you're interested in being in the studio here at the WGHC or WOTG TV studio, please let me know. Get a hold of me on Facebook. Look me up at WOTG TV. Our email is WOTGTV@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, or you can contact me via Facebook. Look up Chuck Bryant and see behind me the WOTG radio banner hanging behind me. Until then, this is the Chuck Bryant Show coming to you live from the studios of FWC in Cleveland, Tennessee. God bless you and have a blessed day. Hey, this is Chuck Bryant from the Chuck Bryant Show. Yeah, you know, that crazy radio guy. Hey, in the studio with us today, we got the Drive at 5, Mr. Mike Fleming. Hey,
Hello.
Mike, how you doing?
Doing well.
And from the gospel favorites, if you've not seen him across the land, and I even think that you may have a radio station now up on Mars, I believe. Is that correct?
Right, yeah.
How many radio stations are you affiliated with now?
Right now, Gospel Radio Favorites is on over 1,700 radio stations around the world.
Wow.
I told you it was intergalactic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the little rover that's driving around on Mars now, and now has competition because I heard there's another rover on there. They're tuning into the gospel favorites too. They ain't got nothing else to listen to. So
That's satellite radio right there.
Satellite.
whoa!
Yeah.
So we're moving up in the world.
Yes.
So Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I've been in radio for over 25 years and love Southern gospel music. Been a fan of Southern gospel for since I was young. My grandparents used to play it on their cassette tapes and 8-tracks, believe it or not, and I used to listen with them. But love the music. Married, have 2 kids, and they're both married and have kids and 4 grandchildren, all boys.
Well,
That's all right.
Yeah.
I get you beat on that. I got one grandson that was just born here in the last month.
Well, congratulations.
And I've got a granddaughter that was born in November. Had another granddaughter that was born in April of last year.
Wow.
And I've got a granddaughter that's 8 years old. So I got 3 girls and 1 boy.
Oh, all right.
And I'm kind of glad of that. And Mike, tell us a little bit about you.
I've been in radio now a little over 10 years. I got my start at WXAN 103.9 FM in Ava, Illinois, working alongside a man that was probably one of the more popular DJs in Southern Illinois, Bill McCarty, before he passed away.
Oh, wow.
And they're just a tremendous group up there. They just got new ownership, moved into syndication. I don't have 1,400 stations, and I do not have an affiliate on Mars. I can assure you of that. But once you get the bug, you've got it.
Yeah,
and you know, it's a double good thing for me, because not only am I doing something I love in radio, but I'm doing it for the Lord.
Well, you know, you can't get no better than Southern gospel.
Well, that's the truth.
And I'm gonna tell you this right now. I didn't get into this. This is not one thing I wanted to do, was internet radio. But when you work for the Father, you're going to do what He's going to tell you to do. And we started the venture with WOTG all the way back in 2010, and we built the ministry in radio. And then as we moved up here from Florida, we didn't have no support in Florida whatsoever. We moved up here, and it's like the doors have opened up big time. Now, you've been bouncing around the South here recently, have you not?
I have. I've been traveling around, been to South Carolina and Alabama, and of course all over Tennessee. Been doing a lot of driving, a lot of traveling.
Well, I've been down that road before. When we first got started with WOTG, I thought, well, man, I got to get my radio stations out there. And going to Alabama was not one of the places that I thought about going.
Right.
We went all the way to Oklahoma, our very first big concert.
Wow.
All the way to McAllister, Oklahoma. And that was my very first convention in doing gospel radio. And we did it the following 1 year. And in 2017, I put over, I think it was close to 20,000 miles on my vehicle. And we did 4 concerts all over the country that year. And I'm telling you, doing internet radio and trying to travel all that way, and, you know, it's a hard place to tear down and put stuff back up. And I thought, well, the next time I'm just taking a microphone. And NQC, it didn't work out either.
Right.
So what kind of projects you got coming up?
Well, excited because we've launched Gospel Radio Favorites Showcase, which is a television program that we're working on, and just received the first episode back and proofed it, and I think it looks great. We're going to be going back to Alabama again here in a week or two and recording a few more programs, so excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that I contacted you, what was it? Oh, it's been what, last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while to get this going.
And I contacted you and said, hey, you know, what about you coming aboard with us? Because we got 3 TV stations, and the one TV station is WGHC TV. And I talked to you about, hey, how about you doing a program? Yeah. But I didn't have the ideal of you going to the studio. I figured you could do it right there with your webcam at home, because you've been doing the gospel favorites from home for a long time, or in the studio.
Right.
But that's wild. That's really.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's completely different than being on the radio.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I've been told I have a face for radio, so that's, you know. This television thing.
You heard that right.
This television thing is completely different.
Well, I've been watching the camera, and it has not even begun to quake or shudder, so I think you got it covered. Everything's going to be good.
We're doing okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, I started doing the video thing in late 2016. I started using the webcam, as everybody has done Facebook Live. And I got to the point in 2018, I got tired of getting kicked off Facebook. So I created WOTG TV, and we had so many people come on with us all at once, so we started 2 channels, East and West. And now it's grown into where we're taking the big-time ministries, and along with the small-time ministries, that way we've got a network besides just using radio. They have a way to put their platform out. Sure. And we wouldn't believe the churches that have joined on board, because, you know, with all this pandemic that's went on in the last year, a lot of churches are doing Facebook Live, and a lot of churches are getting kicked off. And we've offered a platform that where, you know, in our ministry, you can come aboard with us, and we've picked up, you know, the Perry Stone program. We've picked up quite a few other programs along the way. And we're really happy about what's going on with our 3 Roku stations. Yeah. And we're growing every day. We're fixing in the process of picking up 3 shows out of Nashville that I'm not allowed to talk about, but they're going to be here in the studio come June. And one of them's my partner, Marty Smith. And they're coming in, and, you know, we're looking forward to your program, and there's a couple other programs that are coming in.
Do you like that teaser, how we said, you know, we're picking up these programs that we're not allowed to talk about?
We're not allowed to talk about
Talking
these.
about a teaser.
Yeah. Well, you know.
As one of the partners, I am aware of part of it, but I'm not aware of enough of it to break his rule, so I can't.
Well, the thing of it is that Marty's got a program, and it's been mentioned out on Facebook, but they're in the final stages of working with their sponsors. So we're not allowed to say that. And the other 2 programs is Jim Shelton and Bev McCann. And I know you know who they are.
And you just said it.
I said names. I didn't say shows.
True.
See, I know how to keep this.
Threading the needle.
Yeah,
yes.
You got to make sure that you hit it right through the center and stuff. So what else you got cooking?
Well, you know, you had talked about being a ministry.
Yes.
And that's an important aspect of the radio program. Is it and I'm going to share this with you if you don't mind.
Come on.
You know, it wasn't until I had a goal last year of 200 stations. That's it. And I said, Lord, this is a ministry, and I'm giving it to you, and you do what you will with it. And I gave it to the Lord, and then from that point on, He's blessed the radio program, the ministry. And it wasn't until I said, Lord, I'm all in. Whatever you want to do with it, do with it. And that's when we started growing. And the coolest thing is when I get letters and emails and notes from listeners who say, I'm just having a rough day. Or one of the letters that I think of is a mother had sent a letter to me and said that her daughter had died. And as she was driving down the road, she heard my program, and the perfect song came on at the right time and ministered to her. And that's what it's all about right there, is being a ministry and sharing the love of Jesus Christ and ministering to folks through gospel music. And what an awesome, awesome opportunity it is.
Well, it's so great that you can go on and do a show. You can play the music, that you don't have to worry about industry. You can talk about ministry.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're running a traditional radio station where you're running a country station or a rock station, or even contemporary gospel radio stations where you have to be very careful about what you say. I do love internet radio. To me, that is the greatest thing because, I can run your program, I can run your program, and I can run it all day long and, not get in trouble for it.
Sure.
But if you were on a traditional radio station, you've got your 30 minutes or an hour, whatever your show is. Same with y'all's program, and that's it. I like to run it like with, when you was with us before, full time.
Yeah.
We had you 5 days a week. Now you're just on weekends.
Right.
And Mike's got a program that we do the 5 days a week with the Drive at 5. And we got people that actually love listening to your program. We've got feedback on them. And Mike's program, I missed one day actually running Mike's program. We couldn't figure out what had happened. And I had a listener call me.
Computer gremlins.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
That's what it was. Probably the power, but I didn't want to say that. But anyway, we had a really problem Friday. Dalton Utilities, which I live in Dalton right now, we're fixing to move to Cleveland, but Dalton decided they were going to flip the switch Friday afternoon, right in the middle between 4 and 5.
Make sure to get me their address. I'm going to send them my bill. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're moving right along. You still working in radio?
Yeah, I love radio. I love working in radio, and I don't see any change in the near future.
And Mike's just recently moved to what part of Tennessee?
McMinnville,
right up the road here.
Just an hour and a half.
Just over the mountain. You're 35 minutes away.
About 35 minutes. Yeah. It wasn't too bad getting here. Not too bad.
So, how was the concert over the weekend? Or did you do a concert over the weekend?
No, I didn't do one.
I thought you was going to Alabama this weekend. I'm pardon.
No.
Okay. Because I heard, huh? Oh, okay. So, tell us some of the big artists that you've interviewed.
Well, I just actually airing this week, Joseph Habedank. And
cool.
Of course, he has a new album out and a brand new single, and had an opportunity to talk to him. I'm a big Joseph Habedank fan, so that was great to interview him. Through the years, I've interviewed a lot of different folks. Bill Gaither, I had an opportunity to interview him a couple times, and sat down with Gloria Gaither. That was a treat. Many years ago, did that, and so there's a few out there that I've been able to talk to, and I try to do just like you, try to do regular interviews, and once in a while I can get a really good one.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, my claim to fame is I've interviewed 3 big stars in my time, and First of all, I got to interview Charlie Daniels.
And I heard that interview.
And let me tell you something. Being nervous before we went on the air, because, here is one of your, you growed up listening to Charlie Daniels all the time. And I kept going, Mr. Daniels, Mr. Daniels, Mr. Daniels. He says, Chuck, stop. It's Charlie. And I said, yes, Charlie. And he said, and I'm one, if I interview an artist, I don't keep their phone number. Like most people put it in their phone, text them. And if I interview an artist, unless I'm really close with them or something like that, I don't keep their phone number. I'll go back through the agency. And one of the girls I went to high school with is Katrina. And she sings with Ordained. And I went through Mike's organization to be able to get an interview with her. And I could have picked up the phone, but
Sure.
It's out of respect for who you are to be able to get to that artist.
Well,
And
Brian also has, and I've been paying attention, so let me ask this one, Chuck.
you got it, brother.
I understand you've also just started a new booking agency and radio promotions company.
That's
Well,
correct.
tell us about that.
Well, thank you. It's GRF Promotions. It's actually, we call it a sister company of Gospel Radio Favorites. It's two different entities. We'll make that clear up front. But, we're promoting, doing radio promotions, and a lot of different one of the things that I hear, and you probably, I'm sure, hear the same thing from different artists, is that they don't get regular communication, and that's one of the big things that we're doing is really communicating with the artists, talking to them regularly, and we do radio and song promotions, and just excited about that. We're doing well.
One of the things that, if y'all out there and you're listening, one of the greatest things I like about Mike, and we're starting to get your stuff in, is they call and Mike says, where are my groups on rotation?
Yeah.
And I can tell him, hey, this is what it is. And our comp desk, I put them up there at the top, with the others that we get, and we
Sure.
get quite a few. And one of my things is I like the one-on-ones that I get from the promoters. Hey, how's my groups doing? Well, we've got you here. We got you there. And then we send you a copy of our chart and let you know where we charted at. And I like the one-on-ones. That's the things where you build the relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big deal. I work for Jack Allen. He owns Allegiant Radio Promotions. And the complaint that we heard the most from artists was the same as what Brian just said. People don't keep in touch. I probably don't call as much as I should, but what really surprised me, because I had never worked in that part of the industry before, the thing that really surprised me is there's guys out there doing the same thing I do, getting paid more to their company than what we charge, and don't even provide a monthly report. I've got a group, so now I'm going to switch hats and tell you, as we've got a single out right now. It's called "He Holds the Scars." My group is the Masters Legacy Quartet, and I like to know. We're not charting. We're so new, nobody knows who we are. We're still going through a process, building relationships and getting the word out. But I do like to know where I'm being played. And if I was paying what some people pay, and I didn't even get a monthly report, it would bother me.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other complaint that I heard was from program directors and music directors. And that complaint was, some of these folks call us and harass us. And, these people, and I'd say this to anybody, and I'm sure Brian's probably experienced this. Are you still with the Athens station?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He's probably received these calls. These DJs and program directors are not our employees. They honestly don't have to answer us. Now, we need their cooperation, obviously, or we can't do our job.
Right.
But it's how you treat them that's going to get that relationship built.
Yet, in the industry, one of the things that I see, and you probably can relate, I'm switching changing my hat and as a DJ, you know, I am inundated with phone calls and emails from everybody who wants to know if their song is being played or can you play my song. And I have, if you see my desk at home in my studio, I have stacks of CDs of folks that want me to play their music. And there is not enough time in the day for me to listen to every single song from every single artist that sends me their music.
It's impossible.
Now I'm going to come in as a station owner, stations owner,
and
Right,
yeah.
we should be switching our.
I'm going to tell you right now. I'll just slide it over here. We'll have this made.
Easy now.
But with the
Take it easy.
stations, yeah, there you go. Between country and Southern gospel, with Christian country and Southern gospel, my partner Marty Smith. Marty's very picky about what he puts on his radio station, and Marty should, because Marty's been doing radio for over 35 years. He started. He sunk his teeth into it with the old tapes that they used to do, and now we're doing internet radio. And me, I just started in this, because I wanted to do gospel music. No one in my area was doing Southern gospel, and I wanted to bring Southern gospel to St. Petersburg. And did I know that I wasn't going to hit that concrete wall because nobody was listening? And then we moved up here, and then here we are, 4 years later, and the world has just opened up. But my biggest thing is when we get the CDs from the artist that'll send it out, and I mean, I'm very picky myself of what we put on. I've had the CDs. I've got the karaoke CDs. Now that's one that you really like. Is the karaoke CD, and I'm not going into detail. But when you've got a person that takes one of these in their house, put their PVs or their Bose or whatever they want to use, and then they crank the volume up, and then they're singing like they do on some of the videos.
Look, even if they had Pro Tools, which a lot of studios use. Just because you own Pro Tools does not mean you know how to use Pro Tools.
One of my biggest things is I love the small artist. And I was asked, when I seen you up at NQC back in 2019, we had one of the artists there that asked me a question, and they go, "Chuck, why don't you play us? You play all the big guys." And I said, well, I'm very into the regional artist because, I've got several good friends that are in the industry, and I went to concerts from the Bristows to the Jordan's River, Pastor Randy Graham and the Bristows. I'm really good friends with them, appointed to some of the groups. A lot of people don't even know that these guys exist, and I chart them. And I've been told by some people, don't put these small artists on the charts. Why shouldn't I? Because you take Gold City, you take some of the other big groups besides them. Where did they start? They started on the lower end, just like Gold City did back in the day.
If a group has a good enough song, and what I mean by good enough, it's not. It's not that there's. Well, let me just be very open. I mean, there are levels of ability. Mm-hmm. Some people have them. Some people don't. Yeah. And I'll tell you about my group. I'd like to tell you, sitting here in this room today, be careful of stray lightning bolts. I'd like to tell you.
Hold it. We are doing a fundraiser to put a new roof on. Just don't let it be right now.
Okay, hold off on that, Lord. I'd like to tell you we ought to be number one. But the truth is, when you listen to things, there's nothing wrong with putting a group on a chart. And I feel like that if their talent level, if their ability, their presentation is there, there's nothing wrong with putting them on a chart. Now, there would be some groups, if you charted them, we'd wonder what you had for breakfast. But, I mean, if they're really doing well, there's no reason not to.
Well, my one thing is that you take a group, and let's just say mom and pop starts their record label or their record, and they're going out there and they do everything right. They go purchase their tracks from like Daywind or somebody else. They get all their information done through BMI Sound Exchange or something like that. They've got it. And then they come to y'all for a promoter to promote them. They pay you X amount of dollars. This is not cheap just to get your song out to radio. And one of my biggest things is that these people, when they hand you a CD or they hand us a CD, me and you've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
I put the CD in, I get track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, and I got to type it in. How many of those artists that could have been well up if they had just had their, you
Presentation.
yeah. If you're sitting there in the studio and you're going to pick out a song, how often do you have to type all the information in?
Yeah, a lot.
And it gets me because I've got boxes, even compilation CDs that are coming in from some of these record labels. It takes time, especially when you're doing TV and radio. I take one time a month now to where all the compilation CDs come in. I'll put them on the desk, and then I'll turn around, and on a certain day, I'll go in and I'll rip all the CDs. I'll put it in the drop boxes for Pastor Jack from KOTG. I'll put it in the system for Gary Hill with Rejoice from Detroit Gospel Radio, WORB with Roberta Evans. And we put this music out to them. And I mean, we're going all across the country, Ohio, Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, Cleveland, Tennessee, with what we've got. And, I make sure that everything's labeled. But by the time I do that, I've already spent a day doing 12 to 18 CDs because it takes time.
I have a friend, and it's not that we're close. I actually met him while doing radio promotions. And there is a station somewhere between the North and South Pole and the International Date Line and the Prime Meridian that only has enough space to add 9 songs per month. Now, this is not a small radio station. This station has a very large footprint somewhere in this country. I'll narrow it down a little bit. How's that? And, if he's getting, and I know there's more comp discs than this, if he's getting 20 comp discs a month, how are you going to do 9 songs? But that's the rules. That's the way it is. Somebody is not going to get selected.
Yeah.
We get right now on a comp disc, without giving out anybody's name, I get 27 comp discs either through email or through radio.
Yeah.
And I have to be very picky on some of the comp discs we got because, we work for some big labels that we have to make sure that we get their stuff on there. And some of the songs that we get them for a certain thing, and I'm going, what were you thinking? Dear God. And the thing of it is that I love gospel music enough to know that over the last 7.5 years that I've been doing this, and I worked at Way FM all the way back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
No way.
Yeah. Yes,
Way.
Yeah.
or I can't help myself. Yahweh.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. All right. Let's reel this back in here. Yes, way. And some of the greatest things that you can do in radio is that have your song hit and it go number 1. And one of the worstest things that can happen to radio is you put it out there and it never gets played. And I like to give every artist an opportunity. And, I've got it to where we can play, but we're very, very picky. And, just because you email us and tell us that this is what y'all want us to do, we have to be very careful. But that you're messing with some of the big time gospel groups. Mike's doing the same thing when y'all working for y'all's companies.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and I think we all can agree. I look and listen for the message, make sure that there's a message there and that it's accurate. I listen for the vocals, and I listen for the music and make sure that it's quality recording and that it sounds good. The music that we play represent us, and I want to make sure that it's top notch. And yes, I've received. I remember years ago, I received a cassette tape that the guy was down in his basement and he recorded and wanted me to play his song. And it was.
Now, wasn't that little thing that was a little square like
Cassette
that, had
tape?
film in it?
Yeah,
And one of the tools you used to work on them was a pencil.
That's right. It tightened it
That's
out.
right.
You know what? You know what's so funny is I used to have a friend here in Dalton that was down there. He used to work for WBLJ, and he was telling me the days that when they would do stuff on cassette, and you'd have your commercials where you'd slide the cassette in and it would roll. He said he was right in the middle of the. He worked late night at WBLJ, and he said one night he was in the middle of it was either Larry King or Bohannon was on the radio late at night, and he said the tape broke for him to run the cassette or to run the commercials.
Oh no!
And he was scrambling, and he was hoping that Bohannon would use it because Bohannon would take his time and he would work through commercials, which I used to hate. And he was trying to get the commercials back together. And he ran one of Larry King's commercials in Bohannon's spot because the tape broke. And I remember taking my old cassettes and pulling them apart, splicing them with tape. And I remember my first 8-track tape was back in the late 80s or early 80s. And I took an old 8-track tape. Can you imagine? And a couple years ago, I was up at Gary Paxton. I know you remember the name.
Oh, yeah.
I was up at Gary Paxton's house up in Branson, where we used to have Branson Gospel Radio. And
Gary S. Paxton.
yeah. And his wife, Miss Paxton, took me downstairs and showed me Gary's studio. And Gary had the old 8-track tape players in there, the old cassette, and him going back as far as he did in radio, he had the record duplicators downstairs.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm going, my goodness.
Well, when I started, we literally played. We had the albums. We had albums side by side. We'd play one song on the album, and then as that was nearing the end of the song, you'd have to cue this next one up and get it ready. And boom, we'd play that one, and then we had the old carts. They're like 8-track tapes. Mm-hmm. And boy, we thought we were high tech when we had
cart
those.
machine.
And that's what we run our commercials on. So when that about finished, we'd get that cart ready and put it in there, and we'd flip the albums, and that's how I started in radio.
Things have changed so much. When I had my studio at my house, I actually had my turntable hooked into my little 5-channel Mackie that makes it sound like I'm in a high-tech studio, you know. And but now that I've had to move my studio to my office, I don't have room for that. So if I want, I've got, which is a small collection compared to some of these guys out there. I've got like 1,500 Southern Gospel LPs going back to the Blackwoods and the Statesmen.
Oh, my goodness.
And I've got, starting about 1990, I've got comp discs coming up to the year 2000, probably 1,000 of them.
Oh, wow.
And I've got, I don't know how many 45s. I pulled one of them out, and my kids looked at me and said, Dad, what is this 30? It says 33 and a third. I said, it's a giant CD. He said, how did you play it in the car? We didn't.
Well, you know, it's so funny that my daughter, when she was at a certain age, one of her favorite songs was Butterfly Kisses. And I had that on a cassette. And I thought, oh, wow, that was the greatest song that ever was. So I went and bought her just the song. And we flipped that cassette, and we flipped that cassette. And I thought, I can't wait to the day they have a CD player where you can put in more than one song. Right. And in my car, I had the CD player, but, you know.
They still got arrows.
Yeah,
But
and so the funny thing is when I got the CD player, and she says, "Daddy, can we back that?" Oh no, you can't do that. You got to keep the CD
Yeah,
playing.
sorry. Yeah.
And then the kids got.
Thou shalt not.
Yeah, I did. And then I couldn't wait for the day to where they could cut their own CDs. And in 2002, I give them each a computer, and I tell my daughter, "Now you pick out the songs you want." I would listen to the cassette player as we're going down the road, and they had their headphones in. Daddy, would you turn that down?
Now that's kind of weird because I'm always telling my kids, turn that down. I can hear you over my tunes.
There you go.
You know, the interesting thing is now with new cars, they don't have CD players.
No.
You got to use the USB drive and get your music in
Well,
that
you
way.
know, the thing about it is all of us anymore with satellite radio out. There was a company that I heard just recently that's going to do away with AM and FM because it's internet radio, so they're doing internet radio.
I have heard that. I hope it's not true. I wanted to be a DJ from the time I was a kid. And we had, of course, I wasn't a Christian when I was a kid. I was raised outside of Chicago, and I was doing stuff at 8 and 9 years old that we don't want to talk about today, okay? And we had WLS was the big station there. We had Bob Surratt and Larry Lujak were the two DJs, and I wanted to be just like them.
Well, you know, my thing is that when I was, I lived outside of Cincinnati.
WLW.
WLW, and I used to listen to sports talk, and I thought, man, it was so great to listen to sports talk. So I took in my bedroom, I found an old card table that my grandma and grandpa gave to me, and I had my cassette player, the old radio player that had the disco lights on it. I had my record player there. I had my 8-track here, and I took them. There you go. And I do that I would do that every night, and I turn on sports talk out of Cincinnati on WLW and go, "Yeah, this is sports talk. Now we're coming back to you." And yeah, Cincinnati has bombed again.
The AM stations, obviously the sound quality was not there. But, I mean, that's where it all started. It's great. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, did you catch that when he said, I do that I mean, I used to do that every night.
Yeah.
Used to.
Well, you know what got me my first week in radio when I was down in St. Pete, I did a talk show, and I was learning how to do radio. And I went out on my own, and when I did my first interview, I interviewed, who was the first interview? I interviewed Vonda Burgess from the Burgess family. And we did the interview, and I went back to do my first editing, and I found out how many's in and stuff. And I was like, come on, I got to get this better. So I started just calling people out of the blue, and I'd say, hey, Brian, you want to do an interview tonight? And I wouldn't put the interview on, but that's how I got to my profession. And so when I started doing my own talk show, I had people that would go through my interviews, and I would talk about tech, and I had Technology Today. And then I went from Technology Today to the Cajun Tech Guy because my roots in Louisiana with WLW out of New Orleans, because I used to love to listen to that radio station. And
WLW, Cincinnati. What do you got in New Orleans?
WLW.
Both have a WLW?
No, one has, or it may be WWL.
Just don't say WSM because we're going to know you're wrong.
You're definitely. Well, this is the WOTG Radio Network, and that's where we're going to leave it. Well, Brian, it was great to have you in the studio,
great
man.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. It's been fun.
Very nice to meet you, sir.
Great meeting you.
Yes, sir.
Great meeting you.
And Mike, of course, both of y'all came over the mountain to get down here.
Yeah.
See, this is the greatest thing when you live in Cleveland, Tennessee, and you're just right up the road from Dalton. We don't have mountains, but if we went to LJ, we'd have had to come down the mountain.
Right.
Oh, my.
So, guys, this has been the Chuck Bryant Show live from our studios here at, I forgot where I was at there.
Cleveland, Tennessee.
Cleveland, Tennessee.
I think that's where we're at.
From the studios
At least
of
right now, right?
WFC. And we'd like to thank the church for allowing us to be here to be able to do this. And until next time, guys, You've been listening to the Chuck Bryant Show. This will probably air within the next week or so. We'll send a copy to your favorite DJs, Brian Crowe and Mike Fleming.
Thank you.
From the Drive at 5. And again, remember, spread the word of the gospel. And remember, Jesus died for you. And until next time, I'm Chuck Bryant, signing off for right now.